So it's 2021, and it's been raining literally all year here in Africa. And by that I mean it rained real hard last night. It's finally just like drizzling, but last night was, I'm just gonna put it like this. Animals started coming 2 by 2, and they were all the animals you would expect to come in Africa. Zebras, elephants, antelopes, donkeys, polar bears, all that stuff. So we had tents, me and Cullen and James had tents, but poor Will is trying to be of the people because he's a tough guy, and he really is a tough guy. And he slept out in the rain, and I was just like, oh, all night long I woke up like, I feel like such a douche. Like, why would I do this to him? And I'm like, also it's very wet outside, so I'm not going out there with him. Anyway, so that happened. What else happened, Cullen?
They slaughtered the goat that we brought back.
So our goat yesterday put up such a fight, like you don't even understand. I've never seen anything like it.
Do a sound? What sound did it do?
It was, okay, so this little kid grabs the goat by its back leg, and you can tell this goat's got family or friends, or I don't know how goats work, but anyway, grabs this goat by the back leg, and this goat, I swear, does this. Like forever, like for an hour. And we're just like, what is going on? This is so horrible. And it's like flipping himself around, slamming his head on the ground, just like having seizures.
Almost destroyed my foot with his horns.
It knows, like, this is my last day on earth. So Bushman throws it over his shoulder. He's tough. He brings it back. And we go to bed thinking the goat's gonna last till today, but apparently, like right after I went to bed, they were like, the hippie's gone to sleep, let's kill the goat. So they did, and now they're cooking backstrap over there. I think they're gonna start eating it here in a second. Colin's starting to get hungry. His mouth's watering, it's kind of gross. Anyway, what else? What else going on?
We're going to a meeting today.
We're gonna go through a meeting. Oh, Will stepped in poop.
Human
poop. They don't dig holes or use toilet paper, and so Will has done that. We haven't showered in, I don't know, I guess 2 weeks or however long. We've been gone for 8 days. I think we haven't showered in 3 weeks. I'm not good at math. We basically become animals. That's really all I can say, but we are actually having a really good time. We've done a bunch of cool stuff. It's been really an adventure, and we're loving it. What's the matter, Colin?
I need some floss, man. There's stuff stuck in my teeth.
I've got this.
You, sir, are a dentalman.
Did you say a dentalman?
A dentalman and a scholar.
Hello, John. Hey, so we're here at the Haza Convention Center. It's quite a hike. First we had to drive. We got stuck in the mud, ran through a river. Will saved us. We had to get our winch onto a tree. A buffalo came and helped us out. Maybe some of that might be exaggerated. I only exaggerate like 500% of the time. But we're here at the convention center, and we're about to have a very important meeting with a bunch of Europeans. They're coming in on a private jet to talk to us about being eco-friendly. So it's important to know balance and what the word irony means. All right, love you, bye. All right, I want to talk about the Tanzanian shilling here for a second. So the Tanzanian shilling, $1 American is worth 2,300 Tanzanian shillings. So we got a significant amount of cash that we brought to buy all this food, medical supplies, and everything else. And by the time we were done with it, we had to change it out. We had 23 million shillings in cash. We had bricks and bricks and bricks of Tanzanian cash that was basically worthless. And we're walking around with this football, we call it a football, this large fanny pack type of a thing, filled with bricks of cash. And everywhere you went, you're like, how much for the candy bar? They're like 5,000 shillings. You're like, I don't know what that is. Here's 5,000. Oh, it's $2. Okay, cool, whatever. So I've been to several countries where the American dollar and the local currency is astronomically different. And every time I'm like, this is why minimum wage is not $15 an hour. Because if you do that, and this is a quick lesson in economics for you, okay? And I know everybody's gonna have their opinion because you want to make more money and everybody should have all these things. But here's the way that it really works, okay? If you say now everybody makes $15 an hour instead of $7.25 an hour, and that's the minimum wage now, well then the people that own the companies that employ those people are like, well, my cost just doubled. So now a burger that was whatever, $5 is now $10 or more, because now not only do I have to pay them more, but I also have to pay more unemployment and more workman's comp and all the things that go along with that, all the taxes and everything else that go along with that. At which point you're like, well, now a burger costs $10 for a cheap one at McDonald's. And so everything else went up, because now, somebody else is making it, has to buy a burger for $10. Well, now a house is going to cost $1 million for nothing house. And pretty soon the value of the dollar goes down. You still have the same amount of dollars, and maybe a little bit more, but it doesn't matter because it's worth less than it was before. And then the other problem, and here's a big one, let's say that you've managed to save some money throughout your life. Let's say that you've worked and slaved and saved and everything, and you finally got some money. Let's say you got, I don't know, a couple $100,000. And everybody else comes in and devalues that money, and now all of a sudden your couple $100,000 is worth a couple thousand. At which point, your retirement, your old age, is spent like having to work because everybody else just wanted to have more, even though they didn't want to work for it. So that's all I'm going to say about that as far as economics go. But I'm telling you, as living proof of being in countries that are like this, it is unbelievably harsh. You're just like, how much paper do I have to carry around so I can buy salt? We went along a lot of rough terrain. We got stuck in the mud several times. We went through riverbeds. So we were very dirty and very stinky. And our feet were very muddy. And at one point I was sitting and I looked beyond Will's feet and I saw everybody, and he was speaking to them. And I remember the scripture that said, how beautiful on the mountains are the feet of those that bring good news. And I thought about how gross our feet were at the time. And yet God says that our feet are beautiful on the mountains, and the mountains are beautiful. Our feet are beautiful on the mountains when we bring the good news of Jesus to people. So I've had a theory for a long time that whatever in the world you need, in general and at the moment, is provided for you. Allow me to elaborate. So the American Indians believed that wherever there was a problem, wherever there was a bad thing, that right next to that was the antidote for that problem. Okay, so for example, I'm very allergic to poison ivy, and I found out that wherever poison ivy grows, there's something called jewelweed that grows very near to that. And so if you look and you see poison ivy, you look around again, you're going to see some jewelweed. And so once I found this out, there came a point and I was like, oh man, I'm in poison ivy, and in sandals or whatever. And so it's already rubbed up on me, and I'm like, I'm gonna be itchy for weeks now. This is gonna be horrible. And I was like, there's gotta be some jewelweed around here. And I looked, and sure enough there was. And so I took a bunch of jewelweed and rubbed it all over my legs, and I got in the water and rubbed it all off. I didn't get poison ivy. Okay, so this is probably a bad analogy because I'm not really a gamer, but when you play a video game and first you start and they're like, okay, so you don't know anything about anything, so take the C stick and move forward. And you're like, I don't know how to do that. And I'm like, just move it forward. And it's not gonna let you go to the next level until you move it forward, because you gotta learn how to move it forward. And then you do, and you're like, okay, cool. Now pick up that thing. And you're like, I don't know how. It's like, push the X button or something. So you push the X button, you pick it up, and like, see, that's how it works. Let's try this again. And you push the X button, and sure enough, you pick up enough things, and they're like, good, you're moving on. So then, at that point, you don't need like the triple swivel grip ninja kung fu kick, right? Because you can't even figure out how to use your stupid body yet. But once you get better, you're gonna need that ninja double flip kick, whatever in the world it is. But until that moment, you will not need it. But once you get it, you will definitely need it, because it's part of how the game works. And I realize that life is not exactly a game, but I do believe that anything that we need, if we look, it is provided for us, okay? And you could say, well, that's just a dumb theory, and maybe you're wrong, and maybe I am. But for years now, I've been like, I strongly believe this, and every time I've got a problem, I'm like, okay, I need this thing, but what is there around here that will work like that thing? And when I look, I'm like, oh, there's that thing. And then sure enough, like with some struggle and with some work, we overcome whatever the problem is, because the answer is right there in the middle of the problem. Like, what we need is provided for us. And so I think that that's a pretty cool thing. So in Africa, the reason I'm saying this is that in Africa, these people, anything in the world they needed was all around them anyway, right? I need to have a shelter? And they're like, well, there's sticks and there's grass, and they made it. I need a better shelter. Well, there's sticks and there's mud, and they made it. And they're like, I need a better shelter. And they're like, well, there's rocks, and we can mix concrete with it. And look, we can, make you a concrete house. And they're like, we need something to hunt with. They're like, well, these sticks, they're very, very strong, and you can make bow and arrows out of these. You can take this, and you can take the tendon from the thing that you shot, and then make the bowstring out of it. And I was fascinated to see how resourceful all these people were, as far as like, they would just look around and go, we need this, and they'd look around and there's a thing, and they'd modify it, and like, I just made an instrument. And I'm like, how did you do that? And so to me, that was really exciting to see how they took what was all around them anyway and modified it to make it useful for what they needed. And so I have a tremendous respect for people that do that. I've noticed, and I realize that this is going to sound super racist, and I don't mean it that way, but I think it's okay to say nice things about people as overgeneralization. When I work with people that are Mexicans, especially like Mexico Mexicans, not born in America Mexicans, I am fascinated with the fact that they can just look at something and go, oh, you need to build a house? It's okay, I've got this stick and these 3 rocks and whatever. I'm like, you're not gonna be able to do it with that. And then they do it. I'm like, how did you? I bought all these expensive tools, and I got all this training and YouTube videos, and I've got, decades of experience. I'm like, it's okay, I just get this stick and some rocks, it's okay. And then they do it, and it's beautiful, and it's like square and level and looks good. I'm like, how are you this resourceful? I feel like an idiot next to you. So I don't mean that in a racist way. I mean that in a, like, I'm trying to compliment you way. But same thing was true in Africa, is that they were just like, I need this thing, and they modified something, and then they made it work. And I just think that that's, I respect that a lot.
I've tried out for Survivor 17 times now, okay? And I've watched, so after about 9 times trying out, my girlfriend's like, hey, have you ever watched the show? I'm like, no. And she goes, maybe you should watch it if you're going to be on. I was like, good point. So I watched it. Anyway, the moral story is that sometimes on Survivor, you're like, are you ready for another 39 days of suck? And you're all like, yes. Well, I guess we'll eat dirt and sleep in the rain again. And then all of a sudden, like, surprise, pizza party! That's what happened to us today, okay? We woke up on the dirt next to a fire, and Antelope came into our camp last night and was all like, or whatever sound antelopes make. Then the guys in the tribe, it's a true story, the guys in the tribe were like, we're gonna go and kill the antelope in the middle of the night. I'm in my tent like, what's that sound? It was somebody trying to kill an antelope in our camp. Anyway, we drive. How long do we drive? From 7 in the morning?
It was at least 6 hours all in all.
No.
Oh no!
Way more than that, like
we
8.
drove from 7 a.m. till 6 p.m.
Keep in mind the hour break.
11 hours. We drove 11 hours.
That's not 11 hours.
It was 11 hours.
We didn't try. Dude, was it really?
Yes, dude. Yes.
No wonder
All
I'm
day.
feeling this way.
We drove 11 hours. Almost all of it was off-road. And I'm not talking a little off-road. I mean, like, we went through rivers. We went through mud. We were getting whipped by thorns. Like, it was a rough day. We got some, then we went to a village, we helped some people out and gave them medicine, and that was really nice. And then somebody there was like, hey, I need to get to the hospital. And so we drove them 1,000,000 miles, in dirt miles, kilometers, whatever, to a hospital, and we got them where they, and we're thankful for that. So then we're like, okay, so this was a lot longer trip than we thought, and now we're gonna have to drive all night long to get back to the dirt. And then Will goes, you guys were pretty cool sports today. Let's just stop in here and get like some chai tea. And we're like, yeah, that's cool, whatever. And so we're like, we're the dirty dudes. We're like, we'll be back on the road in 5 minutes or whatever. Just trying to get our drinks. Incorrect. Look at this place. Look at it. It looks like butterbread on the ceiling. Look, it's not a, okay, I'm gonna give you my impression of my tent. Oh, I can't, hold on. Here's the top of my tent, ready? And then, like, my bag's here, and I'm like spooning with my bag, but I can't get too far because my tent's like this big. That's all night long. And then there's hyenas and jackals and, I don't know, lions and stuff. They're running around. There's a neighboring tribe. They're trying to kill us. They bring out bows and arrows. And the other night, this happened, Colin. An arrow went through my tent. And I was like, what was that? And I looked up.
That's why your tent was leaking.
Yes. And I look up through the hole, and there's a whole bunch of natives over there. I was like, but not tonight. Tonight, we're going to have a pizza party. We're going to have a shower.
By pizza party, you mean...
Dude, we're on day, 9 or 10 or something like that? We haven't showered at all, but there's showers in here. I don't have clean clothes. I'm going to put them right back on, but I'm going to be clean for a minute. And, of course, Will didn't tell us, hey, by the way, we might be staying somewhere. So literally, everything that I have is right here. malaria medicine, because we don't have malaria, a toothbrush, no toothpaste, my sunglasses, because I was wearing those anyway, and a brush. That's it. So, that's my bag. But I'm so excited!
This morning, they asked me if I wanted to go on a hunting trip, and I'm like, I'm kind of a vegetarian. And they're like, vegetarian is African word for bad hunter. And I'm like, fine, I'll go. Okay. So we decided to go out here. I was like, if I'm going on a hunting trip, I'm gonna shoot an elephant. And they're like, with my camera. He's holding it. You know? And they're like, you're an idiot in African. I don't know how they say it. So we put I didn't realize this. They got a special tracking device that they use on these animals so that you can find them. It's not like the GPS or anything. It's just in the dirt you see tracks. And so then they point at it and they go, oh, it went that way. And I'm like, how do you come up with this stuff? You're so smart. Anyway, we were gonna hunt a cow because it was a lot easier. But apparently that's not sportsmanlike. So then I was like, could we hunt some broccoli? And they're like, we don't have that here. I got a little disappointed. So anyway, they said you can taste things along the way and see. And just stay right there. Yep, that definitely tastes like poop. I'm gonna go back and brush my teeth. We're here in the dead of winter in Tanzania, Africa. And we have gathered some of the best archers in the entire continent. They have all come here today to battle for these prizes. Check it out. There's also money involved. And when I say money, I mean big money. What are we talking about, $50,000 for a winner? Sorry, I didn't mean 50,000 US dollars. 50,000 Tanzanian shillings, which is like 12 bucks or whatever. He's dividing up all the spoils. It's like he went hunting, but instead of hunting, he just shot that piece of cardboard over there. Look how far away that is. That's at least 1,000 meters, possibly 3 miles. I don't know, I'm not good with math. But today we're gonna find out who is the ultimate champion. All right, we're taking a short break while this guy gets his arrows. Somebody else is coming up. Now, what we had to do to start this whole thing is, I had to set a point of reference so you guys at home would understand like how difficult this is. These are all professionals. These have been born and bred into this. Hold on. Nailed it. Look at that. Right into the target. Right into the target. All right.
Okay, he's shooting 3 different arrows.
It doesn't matter. Watch this guy go. It's unbelievable. He missed that one barely. And now for the third shot. This is the one that really matters. They all matter. All the shots matter. Okay, he's gonna go get his arrow. Run. Okay. So as a point of reference, I had to start off. First I bit my arrow, and they're like, you don't bite it like that. Okay, whatever. So then I bent it a lot, and they're like, no, you want it to be straight. I'm like, darn it. Okay, so then I held it back, and they're like, the arrow goes the other way. I'm like, okay, hold on a second. So then I pulled it back, and I was like, okay, it's about 1,000 meters, maybe 3 miles or whatever, and I shot, and it just went straight into the ground. So that's how a normal person would do it. But these guys are professionals. Now look, half of people in all the world are below average, but these people are all above average. They're all experts. It's unbelievable. It's all like one big fish's cycle, or however that's said. It's fishes, right? It's not. I can tell it's not. It's vicious. Let's watch this. This guy's professional.
That's a long
Nailed it. And by it, I mean the dirt over there.
Cover his mouth. He's like, what just happened?
Oh my God. He hit it. He hit the target.
Oh, he has to pick which one. He's not doing the bird one. Okay, now doing that with an arrow in your hand, that's pretty sick.
Amazing. Welcome to Africa. In the dead of winter. Here's a bit of advice for you guys. Never make snow angels in a dog park. So Cullen is on our team. But because they can't really say Cullen very well, we decided to call him Collie.
Let it go. Now you just know to go higher.
Yeah, now you know. They call him Collie.
Let it go.
They've changed his last name to Flower. Now he's Cauliflower.
You gotta win our money to get home.
Nailed it! By it, I mean the dirt and the grass. Okay, third shot. Let's see.
Okay, Collie, one more shot.
Come on, Missouri.
Hey, use the force. Close your eyes, you'll be amazed.
Yeah. Draws back. Nailed it! Every single shot, he got right into the dirt. Good job, Cauliflower. James Bedwell, ladies and gentlemen. probably one of the best hunters that Africa's ever seen, who is a Mzungu, and that means a white dude, or European, either way. Watch him draw back. Nailed it. First shot, right into the dirt. Thanks, jerk. Thanks, jerk. All right, hold on. Ready? Here we go. The crowd is hushed in awe, and by that I mean,
don't hit them all anyways.
they're not. Ready? Yeah. He draws back, and then, with such seriousness, he misses. It's unbelievable. Ladies and gentlemen, let's see what he's got on the third shot.
All right, here we go. Target's
Ready?
downrange.
Come on, James. He's licking the wind. He knows. Okay. North is, I don't know, one of these directions. That way, I think. And here he goes. Draws back.
You want to go next?
What he said. Yes! He missed it! Ladies and gentlemen, Will Hoffman. He doesn't know how to draw back. It's fine. He uses his wallet to hunt, just like me. Ready? Here he goes. He draws back, and he makes it 4 yards, ladies and gentlemen. 4 yards. That's about 12 feet in American terms. Okay, ready? Here we go.
Yards are an American unit.
I know that. That's why it's funny. Ready? And okay. He did get into the dirt, and that's good. There's literally dirt everywhere. Congratulations, Willie. Congratulations. All right, we've got the scorekeeper here. He knows literally everything. You're going to interpret. Are you ready for this? Okay. Tell him we want all the Mzungu to add our points together. Tell him.
He's saying no problem.
No problem. So it's still going to be 0.
Why kuicha? He's saying yes.
He says yes. Yes. We can add all our points together. It's not a problem. Good. So the last night that we were in the Hadza village, I told you it rained most of the days, and there was like a full moon most of the time. But this last night, we were talking, and I kept saying, look at the stars. Like, would you look at the stars? And they're like, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but look at the stars. And I've been to some remote places. I mean, I've been to a lot of countries and I've been out in the country a lot, and I make sure to pay attention to stars. But there were probably 10 times more stars that were visible that night than anything I've ever experienced in the rest of my life combined. So we sat there. After a while, Will was like, okay, look, this isn't gay. I'm like, all right. And he pulls out a tarp and lays it on the ground and goes, let's lay here. We'll still have our conversation, but let's look up at the stars. I'm like, yes, I totally want to do that. It's not gay at all. We're laying there, and I'm looking up, and I see 2 shooting stars. I don't even know how many satellites we saw, 10, 20, something like that. We could just see them like coming across the horizon, or sorry, the zenith. The horizon's at the edge and the zenith's at the top. So we just see them coming right across. And then you just see them like blinking across or whatever. But it was beautiful. So normally, and I probably am not going to describe this very well, but normally it looks like there's, like a sphere above us, and you can see the stars. They're dotted across like 2-dimensional almost. But there, for the first time in my life, it felt like stars had Z depth, like it was 3-dimensional. Like you could tell that these stars were farther away and these stars were closer, and there was just this whole you were inside this big mesh of stars rather than just like a 2-dimensional, oh, there's stars. It was like being in them. And it was really, really a cool experience. So if you ever get the chance to do that, I highly recommend it. There were some things that we brought with us that we had no intention of bringing back home with us, okay? So I brought a tent. I bought the tent for the trip. I was not going to bring the tent home with me. I bought a sleeping bag. I was not going to bring the sleeping bag home with me, right? All the guys bought a bunch of stuff that was just for the trip, and then we had full intention of leaving it all with them because we knew that would bless them. So let me put it in perspective. I talked to one guy, and he was telling me that he's been trying to build his house for 6 years. They got kind of a foundation, and when I say foundation, I mean like a perimeter of rocks and then some bricks to the 8 feet or whatever. And I paced it off, and this house was 12 feet by 20 feet. So that's 240 square feet. I think my master bedroom is bigger than this house was. He'd been trying to build it for 6 years, and he told me that house would go for 150,000 shillings. And the house next door would go for 75,000 shillings. And so I did some math, and what that is in US dollars is his house would cost $64. and the house next door would cost $32. And I'm like, I could just give you money out of my wallet and pay for your whole house, right? And not even notice it. But the problem was that he was probably going to use it to drink alcohol and not fix his house, and that was the big problem. And there wasn't really resources there to do it or whatever. But my tent cost $50, right? So having a tent there was like, I'm a homeowner, basically. So anyway, we wanted, in our group, I told you that we had like 20 guards, and most of those guards did not a lot of work, okay? They were kind of there hanging out, we fed them, and we interacted with them, but they weren't doing very much. Some of them got some firewood once or twice a day. We were very grateful. But there was a couple guys, and one of them was Thomas, and they worked like from before the sun rose till after the sun set. They were constantly like cleaning dishes, cleaning pots and pans, preparing food, slaughtering the animals, skinning them, gutting them, you know, preparing the meat, cooking, cleaning up, getting the fire, make sure the fires were tended. We had 2 fires, just making sure every last thing was done. They made bows and arrows. They did work constantly, always had a good attitude. And we're like, we're gonna pay all these guards, but we really want to pay these 2 like more, right? So I kind of made up this contest, and I was like guessing everybody's ages, and because a lot of them don't know their ages, I was wrong on some of them, and I was like, I don't think I'm as wrong as you think I am. That doesn't matter. Anyway, I said, okay, now you guys guess how old I am, and they all guessed, and Thomas guessed it right on. And everybody else was all over the board. They were 20 or 30 years one way or the other. I'm like, nope. But Thomas guessed my age like to the number. And so I was like, what a perfect opportunity. It was the day before we left. And so I was like, okay, so Thomas wins, and now you get your choice. And I went up to him personally. I said, you can have my tent or my sleeping bag. And he's like, can I have your tent? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And he was happy. Like, he just like, his smile just was like ear to ear. He was so happy. Like, I have a tent now. Like, I don't have to sleep out in the weather. And I'm like, cool, I'm happy for it. I wasn't gonna take it home anyway. But he was so happy. Well, anyway, the next day, James had a bigger tent. And James was like, hey, Thomas, what do you want? And he's like, I kind of want your tent. And so then I had this dilemma, like, man, I gave him a tent, and now James gave him a tent. He can't sleep in 2 tents at once. That's silly. I guess he'll just sell it or whatever. You know, he deserves it. I don't care. But when we came back to camp later on that day, Thomas had told Will, and Will told us, that it wasn't right that he had 2 tents and nobody else had any tents. He was like, I shouldn't have more than everybody else, and so you guys just leave what you're gonna leave, and we'll divide it up amongst ourselves. And I was like, wow, that is really admirable. So I don't know if this happens to everybody, but let's just say you're just sitting in Africa, you're about to go on a safari, and you're like, oh, this is a great place to have a picnic. And so you get some bread and peanut butter and stuff, take a look at it, and you get some honey, and you're like, yeah, I'm just gonna have this. And you sit down, and you're like, okay, let me just get out the knife. And right then, a monkey drops out of the tree, grabs a whole loaf of bread, and darts off within a second, like, and he's gone, and so is your bread. Because that just happened to us. Okay, hold on. He's right over there. You see him? He's eating that bread. He's watching your... Yeah, he's watching my interview. He's laughing with his friends. Got your bread, got your bread. Karma, monkey. Karma.